Under the pale moonlight, the night echoed with chaos. A crowd of soldiers shouted with all their might, screaming to kill the devil. Amid the frenzy, a figure darted toward them at blinding speed, a young boy with stark white hair. Before the nearest soldier could even react, the boy closed the distance and struck him down with a burst of dark energy. The soldier's agonized scream cut through the air. What followed was nothing short of a massacre. With deadly precision, the white-haired boy pressed forward. Channeling power into his palm, he slammed his hand into the earth. The ground cracked and split open beneath the soldiers, his energy erupting like a wave, swallowing them whole. Breathing heavily from exhaustion, the boy stood still as the dust settled. His face was bloodied and bruised, marked by the toll of a long battle. Suddenly, he noticed someone approaching. He turned slightly, eyes locking onto a girl with bright red hair. Her voice trembled with fury and sorrow as she questioned his actions. Why had he made such a choice? Why had he bargained with the devil? She demanded answers from Knox von Leonhaber, calling him a traitor. Knox chuckled bitterly at the accusation. From her vantage point, he admitted, it might appear that way. But in his eyes, it wasn't betrayal. In fact, he claimed she was the one who had betrayed him. She accused him of lying, repeating her question. Why? Why had he done all this? How had things come to this point? But Knox only offered a grin. He turned his eyes to the moon and simply said, it all started with a crash landing. And then suddenly, the game interface blinked to life. A system notification declared, Inner Lunatic completed. Total runs 27. It wasn't a bad run. He'd gathered decent loot, cleared some hidden achievements. Overall, it had gone well. Except for one thing, he was set to die next month. The memory dragged him 2 years into the past. In a sterile hospital room, a doctor spoke with gentle gravity. The test results were in. The young man clutched the report tightly, dread flooding his face. The doctor confirmed that despite testing at multiple facilities, the conclusion was the same: terminal illness. Nothing more could be done. His hand trembled. The only option left was palliative care, pain management, administered carefully and sparingly. Back in the present, 2 years had passed. He turned his head, eyes settling on the calendar. Blood speckled his lips as he coughed violently. In a quiet voice, he muttered to himself that he was dying. For real. The thought looped in his head, but he knew there was no point repeating it. Nothing would change. Just then, his phone buzzed. It was a notification from the university hospital, an appointment reminder. He stared at it, remarking to himself how fortunate it was that no one ever called. Since his memory had started fading, people had stopped reaching out, and he no longer had anyone he could reach out to either. Clenching a blood-stained cloth in his hand, he wondered where a man like him could even go. Opening his phone again, he scrolled through chats, support groups for terminal cancer patients. The screen blurred for a moment, and then, in sudden anger, he slammed his hand against the desk. Papers scattered like autumn leaves. As he looked back up, the game window had returned. It invited him to start a new game. This is all I have left, he muttered. He clicked New Game. The character creation screen appeared. He pondered what kind of character to build this time. After a pause, he chose ultra-sensitive mana, genius, swordsman, and fighter. But as he confirmed the choices, a warning popped up. He had selected multiple genius traits. Proceeding would apply a penalty, a life-limiting illness. He laughed softly. Just like me, he murmured, a soon-to-die character. Without hesitation, he accepted the penalty and continued. Then it happened. A bright blue light exploded above him. His body went limp. He collapsed from his chair, gasping for air. His legs refused to move. His vision swam. Lying on the floor, he felt it. This was different. Was he actually dying? He had long accepted that death was near, but he had always hoped he could at least choose the when and the how. As the darkness closed in, a strange screen appeared before him. Character name modified. Everything went silent. The scene shifted. A soft breeze filtered through an open window in a quiet, unfamiliar room. Something began to synchronize. Then, character configuration complete. The boy, the same one with stark white hair, lay on a bed, panting heavily. He shot upright, disoriented. The surroundings were foreign. Confusion crept in. A stifling sense of déjà vu tightened around his chest. Was this a dream? He wandered the room, unsure of what was real. Then his eyes caught the mirror. He froze. His reflection trembled back at him. His hand began to shake. He had become Knox von Lean Haber, the worst, most reviled character in this cursed game. He couldn't understand how or why it happened, but in that moment a thought surfaced in his mind. It all started with a crash landing. The Lean Haber family was one of the three great houses that wielded the power of darkness. They were closely tied to Lunatic, the game's most infamous criminal organization. Knox was the youngest of 5 sons, born into greatness but burdened by mediocrity. While the rest of his family were renowned swordsmen, Knox was the lone disappointment. Scorned and outcast, he turned to forbidden magic, made a pact with the devil, and eventually became the game's most notorious villain. Still stunned, the boy questioned whether this was all still a dream. Had he truly become Knox? A sudden chime broke his thoughts. His status window appeared on screen. At first, a sense of excitement flickered in his eyes. This was familiar, comfortable. But then he saw the stats. His stamina was only 2, and the negative traits, they matched the character he had just customized. It hit him like a brick. He wasn't just in the game. He was the character, a dying man in reality and now a dying man in the game. He couldn't recall what compelled him to create such a fragile avatar. But maybe, just maybe, a part of him had known. Maybe he had wanted to build someone like himself, terminal, forgotten, and utterly alone. But what he didn't know was the tragedy that choice would lead to. Just then, a new notification flashed. You have one unread message. He opened it. The message greeted him by his real name. Knox froze. Someone, or something, knew who he truly was. The name Chu. It was the one given to him by parents he could no longer even remember, people he wasn't sure were still alive. That thought struck him deeply. Whoever or whatever had brought him to this world knew of a past he himself couldn't recall. The Cinder then says that he might not remember him, but he has to say that it's been a long time without him. Seeing this greatly shocks Knox as the Cinder continues that the past 2 years he has been really brave and strong and has proven himself deserving of coming back. And so the Cinder welcomes back Knox, which makes Knox wonder if he is originally from here. Seeing this message get him wondering if he is to believe that this world is real and the world he came from is not. His hand starts trembling as he calls it all nonsense. The sender then tells him that there is much he cannot tell him just yet, including his identity, and declares that he intends to help him, making Knox wonder, how is he going to do that? He asks Knox to enter a Lydian academy as top priority, and there he should find companions, those who can be of help to him, and get as close to the main storyline as he can. Doing so will set him on the path to find all the lost truth. And with this last piece, the message window fades. Knox panics and asks him to not go yet, but it leaves regardless. So Knox decides to think of what to do. He knows that now he is Knox von Lean Haber, the will-be final boss of this game, and that he is supposed to push himself close to the main story. But regardless of how he understands, for him, it's like throwing himself into the flame. But he considers, what if the message was saying the truth and this is the reality? Can he really afford to ignore it and possibly burn the bridge to his lost memory? Which he decides that he cannot and considers his path as good as set, which is to get near the main story, reclaim his memory, and figure out what this game has to do with it. And if possible, survive since he is living on a borrowed time anyways. And if being the ultimate villain is the price to pay for it, then he is more than happy to do so. He then grins, thinking that it is not worse than the life he had in the other world. He has no memory preceding the diagnosis 2 years ago. During the 2 years he do remember, he was always a dying man. Every ticking of the clock was a countdown toward the end. Every second of his life was filled with fear of impending death. So he questions just how bad can it be? Same life, but different surroundings? And he happens to know these surroundings well. And so he begins by asking the system the date. and it's February 4th, 1812, which means 1 year left till Elidian's next enrollment cycle and also of his demise. But he cheers up and starts to get ready for his 28th successful run. But when he grabs the door handle, he suddenly feels a sharp pain in his wrist. He halts wondering what happened and gets a message that his negative trait sickliness got activated and caused him a level 1 wrist sprain, which makes him dumbfounded. Walking down the hallway, he thinks that even a sunfish would be more sturdier than him and wonder what is wrong with this body. Suddenly, someone bumps into him, and the plates she was carrying all fall down and breaks into pieces, and it seems to be his maid who exclaims that it really hurts upon falling down. But upon noting that it's Master Knox, they all get shocked. Knox feels the pain from stumbling across them as well, and upon noticing that she is a brunette with amber eyes, he wonders if she is Lona. Lona frantically apologizes to Knox for committing a mortal sin and requests him to not cut her with splinters. Knox remembers that she is one of the important side characters, but what makes her memorable is how she talks behind Knox's back every chance she gets, which is weird to imagine considering her looking with those innocent, sparkling eyes with joy as she backbites. Knox leans in close at her and says that he is letting her off the hook this once, but if she were to repeat the same mistake, and Lona immediately apologizes to him. Knox glances to the side and other maids also seems to be terrified, while he thinks that it's not like he is terrorizing people. But upon seeing their full reaction, he remembers that Knox is the spoiled wretch and wonders what kind of horrors has he been spreading in this manner. And Lona, with stutters in her voice, asks Knox where was he heading so early in the morning, and he replies to the drill hall, which surprises all of them. Knox smiles while telling Lona that he is glad that she asked and orders her to follow him, and she gets weird thoughts like if Nukes is going to wall up her with a wooden sword. As they are walking towards the drill hall, Lona suddenly stops and starts glancing at him. Meanwhile, Knox thinks that first off, he needs to survive. His near death in the other world made it clear for him that he is not ready to die just yet, and so the first step he plans to take is adapting to the given circumstances as soon as possible. He mutters to himself that it's not completely impossible. Meanwhile, Lona looks at him with confusion. He knows that he has already beaten this game 27 times before. There is no hidden aspect in this game that he has not discovered yet. He then mutters Traits panel and opens up a window. He remembers that the main story of Inner Lunatic unfolds against an interesting backdrop of conflicts involving the divinity, the devil, and the empire. But that alone would not have earned this game its national popularity. What makes this game truly special is the countless combination of character traits that enables thousands of possible ways to navigate through the game. Traits belongs to different tiers. Depending on how remarkable they are, players can pick several traits of lower tiers. But when it comes to genius traits, players can only choose one, which is not a surprising thing since any genius trait can open up a shortcut to the apex and related fields. Which begs the question, how did he got himself 2 genius traits? He replies himself that it's all thanks to how this game works, specifically thanks to the penalty system called penalty traits. Rather than completely banning players from choosing more talents than allowed in a tier, the game discourages it by slapping them with oversized disadvantages. But regardless, his traits, Genius Swordsman and Fighter, will expedite his progress to the top in combat arts involving white arms, including swords. Ultra sensitivity to mana. This one will allow him to heighten his mana sensitivity to sharply increase his efficiency in any activity that requires magic. But it's not just those 2 genius traits that can be useful to him. And another special one, which must be the benefit that only main character gets Perceptive Eye, which would let him have a peek into the stat window of other characters. Gifted Actor will help him be a more convincing knock, which is something that he would need more than anything. Heart of Steel can help him when he needs to center himself in combat and in danger. But the main problem is the ridiculous negative traits with life-limiting illness on top of them. And seeing all of them, he calls the list a murderer's row of a trait collection. Characters with cold hands and feet cannot even dare to set even a toe in glacial terrain without heat-inducing skills. And due to sickliness, he is bound to collapse at least once before the passing of every chapter. He scratches his head thinking it is what it is, and decides to simply tackle them one by one. Seeing him standing outside the drill hall, Lona thinks that he wasn't bluffing, and if he is really going to drill himself. He stares at the gate for a bit and decides to enter, and he plans to start off with the curse of frailty, which causes his stat growth to be half of what it should be, and his vulnerability to debuffs is twice of what it should be. Now at the drill hall, his hand starts to shake as he holds the sword, and upon thinking from all the angles possible, he concludes that he is doomed. He starts to pant heavily and gets covered in sweat, and drops the sword while falling on the ground being all tired already. He is trembling and despite making only less than 10 swings, thinking, why didn't he knew how intense the curse of frailty would be? He then gets up and looks at the impeccable swords around him, though it doesn't come as a surprise since swordsmanship is what defines the Lienhaber family. Of all the formidable sober that the Lienhaber family has earned, the most prominent is Sons of Darkness and Swords. And what afforded them such renown was its primarily the esoteric arts of infusing dark mana into swords, and none other than the Vanquisher, which is also known as the Black Blade of Domination. A sword that has been historically passed down only from the head of the house to their successor, though to him he doesn't really concerns him, and there are plenty of perks other than swordsmanship that this family has to offer. And for instance, it's money. And money, according to him, they are some of the highest of the highborns in this world, meaning they got plenty of money to burn to the point that they won't mind the family's black sheep splurging, and he is certain that Knox's father Theodore won't give two craps if his brat of a son is throwing money. But he cannot be blamed because through and through Knox has been, and the spoiled last be born of the Lienhaber family, which he finds as an upside to his character, and as he tries to stand up again, his leg starts to shake. He quickly takes his upside line back due to his cursed body and thinks to just chill until Lona brings him back the things he asked for. We go back to a few minutes ago where Lona has brought him a wooden sword, a tower, and some water as he ordered. She is quite surprised upon seeing Knox actually being in the drill hall and wonders if he is serious about this. Knox asks Lona to come here. As he looks around and notes no one is watching, she gets scared thinking that he would beat her. But Nukes asks, what is she even saying, and pulls her ear and whispers something in it. Hearing which she is quite surprised and asks if he is sure as those items will cause him a fortune. And not only that, she claims that they are absolute garbage. But Knox scares her, asking if she is back talking to him, which he frantically denies, and quickly leaves to get the items while thinking that he didn't change at all. What was she thinking? Meanwhile, Knox wonders how resourceful she can get, and he hopes that she can get him those items by tomorrow. Though he gives off a frustrated sigh, mainly about his stamina being only at 2 points, noting that he needs to fix that as soon as possible. Suddenly, someone creeps behind him and greets him with a good morning. He gets quite surprised upon seeing him. He is Rodwell Darroch, the major domo. Apparently, very few people can get short with him, given how much authority he holds in the manor, and KNX being one who certainly cannot. He is chief butler, who assists the family head of Lienhaber family Theodore, and reports directly to him. Knox really doesn't stand a chance against him. He starts trembling in his presence, noting that he got a major obstacle so early in the game. But he thought that a good-for-nothing like Knox would have his whereabouts beneath his notice, and wonders if Rodwell has noticed that something is off. But regardless, he doesn't think that he is defenseless as he puts down the cup. His positive trait gifted actor activates as he tells Rodwell that it's quite funny that he is here since, to his understanding, his job was to attend upon the head of the family. He replies that he has come bearing an order from his father, and his father is apparently expecting his presence at the dinner table tonight. It surprises him as he is going to have dinner with the family on his first day, as Knox, as he doesn't know about the family, let alone the guy he is supposed to be. So he tells Rodwell that his father is going to be disappointed then. While Rodwell also doesn't get why is Theodore wanting Master Knox attend as well, and replies that tonight they will be joined by Miss Tia von Stelliner, and she is apparently visiting to train to be a knight, and if Nukes do not join his brothers in welcoming her, then he is afraid that Lord Theodore would be furious with him, and so he reluctantly agrees to do so. Rodwell apologizes and states that Knox is rather unlike himself today, and he asks, what is that supposed to mean? Rodwell replies that he never much enjoyed swords, yet for some reason he is in the drill hall today, and formally asks if he can inquire what his inspiration was for doing so. Knox replies that he will make it clear on this once and for all. As his master, he will not tolerate such insolent questions in the future, as things that he do and why he does them is none of his concern, and he alone determines what he takes interest in, which kind of makes Rodwell nervous. And Rodwell agrees and simply bows down to him, and Knox leaves. Rodwell wonders if Knox is getting new wind or something and decides to inform lordly neighbor. Back into his room, Knox starts panting heavily due to all the nervousness, noting that he was not expecting such an event and wonders what would happen if he were to get busted, and also questions about Tia and why would she pop in so suddenly. Now fast forward to tonight where someone is mocking K and X that a major dunce is gracing them with his presence, which is a vulgar touch to their dinner. Meanwhile, Knox is quite silent as they mock him further, that if Knox still thinks himself as a lean haber, and they are apparently twin brothers, Hats and Alan. Hats state that he must have lost his remaining shame to join them at the family dinner. They also mock him, commenting that they heard he beats maid and a butler, but Knox stays silent, thinking that while he knew that he is not the one who did it, it still stings nonetheless. Suddenly the door opens as maid starts to bow, and Knox gets nervous. Theodore is here, who comments that everyone seems to be here. Knox notes that he is the head of the lean neighbor family, and along with him is Tia von Stellener, who greets everyone as she introduces herself. Theodore states that she is here to receive her night training and will be staying with him for a while, and asks his family to give her a cordial welcome. Knox remembers that she is the heroine of Inner Lunatic, the one who puts an end to Knox's corruption with her righteous blade, meaning that somewhere down the road she will end up stabbing him in the heart. Theodore comments that he is quite surprised to see Knox at the dinner tonight, and he simply looks away nervously while Tia wonders what is going on. Regardless, they all start eating, and both Hats and Alan seems to be glancing at Knox and planning something. Alan speaks up, saying that his father, that he heard a Lydian Academy's enrollment starts next year, and so they were thinking that they would need to determine who is the most worthy of representing their family name. And their father agrees with that notion, saying that it's high time they discuss the matter. A Lydian Academy is the most important place in this game. It's due to the main storyline of the game mostly consists of episodes where students at a Lydian Academy handle incidents at school and fight the demon. And so he notes that he has to get into a Lydian and gather as many companions as he can without making any fissures in the storyline. Theodore speaks up, saying that they must be aware that a Lydian Academy takes its own measures to prevent aristocratic families from forming cliques inside. Hence the policy of accepting only 3 students from each household. And since their 2 brothers have already claimed their spots, only one of them 3 will get a chance to enroll. Enix notes that for now he has to focus on getting chosen for the last spot. Theodore continues that the one to enroll will be chosen with their time-honored lean haber method. And Knox replies that he means it would be sorted out by dueling, hearing which Theodore is surprised as he wasn't expecting Knox to show an act of interest. And Theodore agrees with Knox, saying that the duel will take place 1 month from today at the drill hall of their manor. Alan tells Knox that if he is planning to withdraw, then he should not join at all. And Hat says there is no point in him entering with his delicate body and callous free hands. Meanwhile, Knox calmly takes up his wine glass, commenting that knowing his rivals, he is feeling rather optimistic. Alan gets angry hearing that and asks Knox if he is suggesting that they are on par with his pathetic self. Meanwhile, Knox thinks that this duel is a hurdle that he would have to jump anyways to get into a Lydian. So he is going to hell with their jeering asses. And so he says that he is suggesting, as a future student of a Lydian, that he is above their level. And Theodore takes notice of him with interest while his brother simply gets annoyed and angry without being able to talk back. And Tia calls it interesting and asks on what ground is he so confident about this, all while grinning, which causes Knox to freak out, thinking that she is the last person whose attention he should be grabbing. Back at Theodore's office, he agrees with Rodwell that it's just as he said. It's like Knox became a different person overnight. And Rodwell agrees with Theodore, thinking that if he hasn't seen it himself, he would have thought that Rodwell was joking and wonders what triggered such a sudden change in him. He first thinks of possibility of him being possessed by a demon, but quickly dismisses that as a ridiculous thing. But whatever it is, he thinks that things are getting far more interested than expected, and orders Rodwell to keep an eye on him. Fast forward and we see Knox running outside while panting heavily and drenched in sweat. The maids whisper about him that Master Knox is back on the drill and are surprised knowing that he is doing it for the duel next month. But they questions if it's for that, then why is he just running around? He glances at them, wondering why can he hear their whispers from all the way there. And while running, he gets a notification that his stamina has increased by 0.1 point, which he calls it ridiculous. And the reason why he is running is because stamina is a major obstacle in his plan. The trait Genius, Swordsman, and Fighter can only be activated when the character has stamina points higher than 4. And any normal character other than Knox would have fulfilled that condition from the start. And he is still under the curse of frailty. And he has 1 month to improve his stamina by 1.9. The curse of frailty is a curse that has 1 stamina gains. And all of his running so far resulted in a whopping 0.1 point growth. And since life-limiting illness also has the growth of stamina in its own right, he would have to work 4 times harder to get over this double whammy. And to make it worse, life-limiting illness also sets the upper limit of stamina at 15 points. And now Lona arrives with the stuff that Knox ordered her to get yesterday. Knox thinks that she is better than he thought and tells Lona that she is finally being helpful. And so his strategy for punching his stamina up to 4 is to use an expedient. Something he uses masterfully like a pro, as he has beaten this game 27 times before. Lona questions, why does he need all these 4? They're all venomous or extremely tricky to handle. People are even reluctant to ever use them. And the only thing she can find useful among them is the scroll. And Knox replies, they are useless if they don't know how to use them. And Lona doesn't understand. And so Nukes turns around and grabs the purple bottle and drinks it down. Lona gets worried and shouts his name in worry as it's apparently poison. And it's not just any poison either. As his heart starts to beat loud and fast, the venom of the 3-headed snake he consumed increased his stamina by 30% temporary, but he would die in 10 minutes. In return, we see him quite in pain as he clenches the table and picks up another time to eat. Seeing his condition, Lona tries to earn a rock, but Knox orders her to not and eats another item. Lona again freaks out, saying that he should not have eaten the golem's nucleus, and the message informs him that his body will soon start to get petrified. But suddenly a hidden effect gets activated as both of the item reacts with one another, and Knox grins while thinking that things are going just as planned. A golem's nucleus is typically used to maximize the user's defensive power by petrifying the skin or to bring an artificially made golem to life. But when it's used in conjunction with venom of 3-headed snake, the negative trait curse of frailty is eliminated. He clenches his fist, noting that the curse of frailty has lifted. Meanwhile, Lona is still freaking out, and it's not the only hidden effect that he planned to activate. As Lona asks Knox if he is all right, she suddenly starts to blush and gets embarrassed a bit as Knox starts to strip off his shirt. But instead of doing what Lona was expecting, Knox reaches for another potion and pours it on himself. It's Fair's water, which neutralizes the petrification and also causes a reaction as Knox feels a weirdly pleasant sensation. And the effect causes a new temporary trait to form, Blessing of Growth, which causes his stamina to have a growth bonus of 100% lasting till it reaches 5 points. And for the final touch, he uses a scroll of Rapid Stamina Growth, which causes his stamina growth rate to double. With this, he broke the curse of frailty and offset the growth penalty of life-limiting illness. On top of that, he also used a growth scroll, and if his calculations are correct, his new stamina growth rate is twice that of average characters now. Suddenly, Lona rushes and hugs Knox, asking him if he is all right, saying that when she saw him take off his shirt, she thought that he finally lost his mind under the venom's influence. But he ignores her and tells her to get a towel for him. She starts sobbing and Knox thinks, how can he yell at her when he is feeling good about breaking the curse? And so he tells her that he is quite all right. And she asks if he is sure that he don't need Ernerok, or perhaps he could use some rest, but he declines, saying that he got things to do. And she asks what exactly, and he replies with a smile, running, of course. And so we again see Knox running outside along with him. Lona is also running, and someone seems to be watching them both from inside a window, wondering what possessed him. It's Tia, who is pouting and questioning about him accepting the duel with his brothers, despite being built like a garden wheat. Her maid corrects her that it's no way to talk to a member of Lean Haber family. She should remember that they are hosting her. And if anyone hears her talking in such manner, but she ignores her suggestion, saying that she should be thinking likewise, as all Knox does is running. It's like he has no intention of training with a sword. And she even heard that some homagers to the Lean Haber family offered to teach him. Yet he turned all of them down without a second thought, which makes her assume that Knox will end up getting beaten witless. There would be no changing that. She is completely engrossed that he has no chance in winning and wonders why is she unable to take her mind off of it. And so she finally snaps and tells her maid that she can't and leaves while apologizing and saying she would be back shortly. Now outside, Knox seems to be resting as someone greets him. And it's Tia who again tells him her name and asks if he remembers. Meanwhile, Knox panics internally, wondering what is she doing here. And so he gets up and says that she doesn't need to remind him and asks her to state her business. She seems to get taken back by his attitude and wonders what is up with it, and assumes that it must be because he is simply too stunned by her beauty, and asks Knox does he really believe that he can beat his brothers, and he simply nods in reply. So she asks that he is doing nothing but running, how much good will that do for his sword skills, which is what Lona wanted to say as well. She also offers him her help, as she would be more than happy to oblige. But Knox immediately shoots her down, saying that he has no interest and asks her to leave. She gets flustered due to that and asks how dare he and if this is how he normally treats people who are trying to offer their help. Lona gets nervous as well, thinking that Knox shouldn't talk to a lady like that. But regardless, Tia angrily takes her leave while pushing Knox and saying, "Have it your way." Though Knox is confused as he doesn't get what happened. Meanwhile, Lona sarcastically comments that it was very tactful of him. He sighs, thinking that it's spiraling out of control. He then uses his perceptive eye onto Leah to see her character window, and he finds it quite wild how talented she is. And looking at the stamina alone, given the average stamina of adult males in this world is 4, she is truly an exceptional case. Although not quite on the level of the 3 Supremes or the 4 Sages, but she can easily claim her place in a league right beneath theirs. And she is also certainly capable of killing a couple of devils in her element of fire. Once awakened, her element of fire will get upgraded to white fire, which will give her the power to burn the corrupt Nox into oblivion. But winning Taya over and becoming friends with her is not an option because he doesn't know how much twist that would cause to the story. And after all, it's nonsense to fraternize with your future vanquisher. Now fast forward to a month later, and we see Tia walking down the manor. She seems to be lost in some thoughts of her. Her memories as everyone around her praises her for mastering skills really fast, calling her a talent befitting the high reputation of the Stellener family. But currently she seems to be doubting herself. And the next thing she remembers, being beaten by her sister. The memory causes frustration as she tightly clenches her sword and questions if she would ever be good enough to become a knight. Knights must be able to lead a frugal existence, void of greed, and from time to time sacrifice themselves for the triumph of justice, and with the mentality as the cornerstone of their training. They must master countless swords and forms. She then sighs, thinking about Nox again, that there is someone like him who thinks that running is enough to defeat his highly trained brothers, and once again states that he stands no chance whatsoever. The next day, the duel was finally upon them. A crowd gathered, including Scylla, Theodore's first wife. Theodore asked Rodwell for his prediction. Rodwell believed the duel would determine which son would represent the Lean Haber family at the Elydian Academy. As the duel began, hats lunged toward Nox. Theodore asked again for Rodwell's thoughts, and Rodwell remarked that Master Allen's years of training would put him in a dominant position. Theodore agreed, finding Rodwell's reasoning valid. Scylla watched intently, though Rodwell wondered if Theodore might be expecting a different outcome. It was true Nox had changed, but imagining him overpowering Allen still seemed far-fetched. Only truly outrageous circumstances could make that possible. Rodwell recalled what he had learned at Theodore's side, that the art of the sword, for all its complexity, followed a simple law. How much time had the swordsman spent with his blade? Only a transcendent, otherworldly talent could bypass that law. And so, the question lingered. Did Nox possess such a gift? Theodore commented that it was unwise to dismiss possibilities, especially since Knox was still a son of the lean Haber family. One of them might well possess a gift rivaling the three Supremes. Back to the fight, we see his genius swordsman trait is inactive. As Knox wonders, why is he so unlucky in this world? Despite his luck being at 7 points, even after all that running, he was unable to bring his stamina up to 4 points. He was almost there, reaching 3.8 points of stamina. And behind him, Lona was also running, asking Knox if he is absolutely sure that he needs her to run with him. And Knox is about to say that, as his servant, she should suffer, but quickly changes it, that she should assist him by staying at his side. Though she picks up, saying that he just let his true intentions slip, but he smiles and hands over the tower, saying that there is one more article to clean for her, and she pouts. And seeing her reaction, he accuses that she just cursed him inwardly, and she replies that she simply bit her tongue. Knox chuckles, and suddenly he realizes that all this running must have given her much stamina as well, and uses his perceptive eye on her, and upon seeing her stamina. At 4.5, he is quite shocked as he questioned what is in the water that this family drinks from, as even their mate is stronger than average men. He gets quite pissed knowing that even after all the hard work he put in, he is still weaker than a side character. Lona tells him that the sun is about to set and asks him to rest since his duel is tomorrow. But Knox hasn't reached his goal yet and needs yet more time. Back to the fight, Alan tells Knox that it would be better for him to withdraw. Since he is his little brother, it would pain him to beat him badly. And Knox replies that it's quite funny since his countenance suggests that he doesn't want him to withdraw. And Alan agrees, asking if his intentions were that obvious. He does want to make a good impression upon Miss Tia, and he believes that Knox will be of help, but Knox advises him against it. He then uses his ability to gauge his stats and notes that his stamina is at 8. So for him, there is no way he can defeat him with what he have right now, and wonders what should he do. While the blondie announces the start of duel between them two, he tells them both to accept the outcome of the duel and not under any circumstances challenge it. Knox is nervous, thinking what should he do since if he loses here, it would be all over his journey to bring back his memory. Finding out who sent him that message, and most importantly, his life beyond the 1-year deadline. And so, as soon as the duel begins, Alan quickly jumps at him to attack, but Knox dodges by rolling away from the attack. Alan tries to kick him, but Knox blocks it with his sword and gets pushed back. His hand starts trembling from the attack, and Alan tells him that he just got lucky. And so Alan once again starts pressuring him with Knox, thinking that this blasted game has one rule. When you lose it all, but if you somehow overcome it all. And suddenly we see his stamina has increased by 0.1 points again. And he smirks, saying, if you somehow overcome it all, you can have everything. Seeing him smirk like this, Alan questions if his amazing strikes shock him out of his senses, and he once again starts attacking and pressuring Knox. Silo, watching this, gets relieved as all the talk about Knox having a change in heart was worrying her. But seeing this, she thinks that she was worried in vain. And just like the first two, the third lane Haber spot at the academy will be taken by one of her son, she assumes. She looks over at Theodore, who also calls Knox pathetic, which makes her grin, thinking that one day this family will. Theodore speaks up, saying that he may have put too high of expectation on Knox, and that perhaps this is the farthest that his change of heart can get him. Rodwell asks if it would not be wise to stop this duel now, since if it would continue further, he is afraid that Knox will need a long recuperation. Theodore thinks that while Alan and Hats are reasonably talented, but their gift is by no standard uncommon compared to their eldest brother, they are mediocre at best. This all puts him in a dilemma as he questions if he has to accept that none of his sons has the temperament to overpower all and put the world under his heel, and that none of them merits the vanquisher. And with this, he lets out a disappointed sigh and starts getting up to stop the duel. Suddenly, Knox gets another 0.1 point of stamina, and when he finally reaches full 4 points, his genius trait activates. He starts to chuckle, and Alan asks if he has lost it already. Theodore suddenly takes notices of something, and we see Knox activating his skill. Knox thinks that a wise person he don't remember once said that a genius and an average man experience time differently. And as the flow of time seems to have come to a halt, Knox comments, if this is how the time flows for a genius, everything is moving slowly, almost as if the flow of time has become several times slower. And his opponent is looking slow doesn't automatically make his control of sword perfect. The skill may not alone guarantee his dominance, but now he doesn't consider himself a dormant. And so it's settled. And the next moment, we see Knox striking the sword out of Alan's hand. It shocks and makes him nervous while Knox smiles, thinking that the victory is his. Alan looks at with a nervous face as he holds his hand. Meanwhile, Knox holds his sword up and calls it interesting. Alan gets pissed and asks Knox what did he just say, and Knox notes that he cannot take his sweet time because this skill's effects only last 5 minutes, which makes him question how can he wrap it up in 5 minutes. He makes it up that he was trying to go on a leisurely pace, but it's growing quite tedious for him, and so decides to put a swift end to it by challenging them both together, which shocks both of them. Knox asks his father if he has the permission to engage in a duel against both of them at once, and his father's quite surprised at first with Rodwell looking nervous, and Ty wondering what has gotten into Knox. Theodore smiles, thinking that he has never seen such spirit in him, and wonders if he has been hiding a card up his sleeve, which piques his curiosity, and with that he grants him the permission to do so. Sela tries to argue but gets ignored, and so both of the brothers get ready to attack him at once, being angry at the fact that they got humiliated in the presence of their father. Knox simply grins in return as they both threaten him that he would pay for his insolence. Both of them rushes at him to attack, but Knox still doesn't seem much pressured by them. Alan tries to order Hats to flank him by the side, but he tells him to shut up in frustration. While fighting, Knox gets a notification that he got a hidden effect. Time of Genius and his proficiency in elementary swordcraft of the Dark family has increased. He calls it perfect timing and immediately starts pressuring them both at once. He finally lands a clean strike on one of them, and they both start panting while Knox is under control. Tia is quite surprised seeing this as her mouth opens up wide. Meanwhile, Knox can already hear up their thoughts on how can Knox, someone who is supposed to be the disgrace of the family, doing this. Both of them turns towards each other, and Knox takes advantage of this and walks in between, telling them that they shouldn't take their eyes off their opponents, as it's the basic rule. He quickly starts pressuring them both again, as they are easily pushed back by his might. And even with the burden of survival on his mind, Knox thinks that wielding a sword can be genuinely fun. And upon seeing his performance, everyone is left quite shocked. Both Alan and Hats finds it impossible, but they seems to have been defeated and kneels on the ground. And with this, his time of the genius skill also runs out, and Knox seems a bit disappointed that it's over already and calls it too quick. He asks the blondie if this concludes the duel, and he quickly agrees and announces Knox as the winner of the duel. Theodore grins, looking at him, and Knox also grins back and leaves after thanking and paying his respects. Meanwhile, Tia seems really intrigued by all this and quickly rushes off to talk to Knox. Meanwhile, outside, Knox seems to be coughing up blood as he notes that he seems to have exceeded the time limit. While the trait time of a genius is quite awesome, it has colossal downsides. Using it for more than 5 minutes triggers a counter reaction, a debuff, and a window pops up which states that due to misuse of his trait, his lifespan has been decreased by 2 days and 17 hours, eroding his days and making him weaker. It's easily the worst kind of debuff that Knox can get, and now he has less than a year left, though he calls himself lucky that it didn't manifest in the hall. Otherwise, people would have started to question if he is fit enough to go to the academy. But suddenly, as he turns back, we see Tia has took notice of the blood and is coughing. As she asks if he is hurt and if he got that injury in mid-fight, and seeing her here, Knox frowns. Knox gets worried that why of all people it had to be her, and if she tells about this to Theodore, things can go downhill. Right as he is about to speak up, Talia says that he defeated his brothers in such conditions, and Knox is confused by this statement. Talia blushes a bit and replies that she might have misunderstood him a bit. She thinks that she has been observing him for a month and not when she has seen him train himself with a real sword. All she heard was that he swung a wooden sword few times in his first day of training, which makes her question how did he manage to defeat his brothers, and assumes that he must have been hiding his massive natural talent. She got multiple questions regarding that, How did he unbridle his talent, and how was he able to hone it so well? These are things she must know. But after this duel, when she saw him alone coughing blood, it popped another question. What is up with him? Is he about to collapse out of exhaustion? And perhaps it's not the case that he beat his brothers with overwhelming strength. Could the rumors have been misleading? Noting that Knox von Lane-Haber is not someone weak or cowardly, and assumes that he is a hard-working swordsman who toiled for his victory. Now, as he coughs again, she asks and worries if he is all right, but he pushes her hand away, telling her to not lay a finger on his body. Though he admits that all those years he spent doing nothing but playing games sapped him of what little social skills he had. Tia fidgets, saying that she just wanted to express her apologies, but Knox doesn't get what she means by that. She continues that she didn't know that he was that serious about the sword, and from what she heard, he was born naturally weak, and it was because of that he was only doing stamina training. So she apologizes for misunderstanding and continues that he must have made a mistake acting like a rude guy. Emma told her that anyone can make that sort of mistake. Hearing all this, Knox is confused on how is he supposed to react to all this. She is earnest just like it was in game. Even if she is a child who has the chivalry characteristic, she is the child of a hard-nosed, reputable duce. It wouldn't have been easy for her to acknowledge her mistake to someone else. And so Knox replies if she thinks that, then he would like it if she didn't tell anyone that he had a bloody nose. She immediately agrees. And Knox wonders if he won't have to worry about the matter leaking now. Would he? And so he leaves while telling her to keep her promise. Meanwhile, she blushes as her heart skips a beat. Now on to Theodore, who states that his predictions have been correct and asks Rodwell, what does it look like to him, Knox's talent, he means. Rodwell replies that he still understands why at first he was just staying, still getting hit, but he believes that at his age, none of his brothers had this sort of talent and skill. Theodore is also of the same opinion, though he cannot elaborate why. But he has suspicion that what Knox let them saw today was just fraction of his true abilities. And so he orders Rodwell to watch and report his every move. But whatever is the situation, he must not interfere. And Rodwell quickly agrees with the order. Theodore wonders if it's true that Knox indeed has a talent worthy of inheriting the Vanquisher. He clenches his fist tightly, telling Rodwell that his report will be of greater importance than ever, as he do not have much time left. And once again, Rodwell assures him that he would strive to achieve his utmost. Back to Knox, who gets a message that he completed the tutorial, but Knox says that it's not a game for him anymore, and yet some of these features are just game-like. He then gets a reward for it, which is 3 attribute points. He gets quite annoyed since he just spent a while month running and trying to add just 2 points of stamina. Yet he gave him the points now, but he uses these attribute points not for stamina, but luck instead. The reason is simple. When playing Inner Lunatic, luck is the most important than any other attribute, and now he plans to test the improvement right away. He opens up his new game plus benefits and get 1 try at the skill scroll dispenser and 1-time skill conjurer. He notes that his new game plus feature is preserved as well and plans to use the dispenser first, and a huge ball of glass manifests in front of him, seeing which he thinks that this machine is the weirdest thing to see in flesh. And so he starts turning it, thinking that now that he has maxed out his luck, his chance of getting a scroll of normal grade or higher is 95%. The machine then starts to shake as Knox explains that raggle-looking ones are low grade, silver ones are normal grade, and gold ones are high grade, and the rainbow ones are prime grade. So he prays for either a gold one or a rainbow one, and the machine stops and a golden light shines from it, and it ended up receiving a golden scroll which makes him excited and happy. He quickly opens it up and now uses his 1-time skill conjurer. He notes that if he wants to collect the treasure from the lean Haber Manor, then he would need that 1 skill. He remembers that soon Theodore would call his sons in the manor together. So he decides that the conjurer skill can wait for now. And with the scroll, he gets a high-grade skill Suppressing Hand of Superiority. This skill would make it so if the sum of character attribute is lower than Knox's, then they get a 20% debuff on all attribute against him. He gets quite happy and excited, stating that this is the reason that he loved this game. And as for his another reward, he is saving that up for later. Suddenly, he remembers that Graham will be returning to the manor soon. His graduation from a Leon was quite a while ago. He is the second eldest son of Haber, and at this moment, he would be returning home from his night training. Now he got both hidden treasure and grain on his plate, so he won't get rest for a while. Though he thinks that there is a silver lining as well, that he won't have to worry about Tia causing him problems anymore, as she is not the person to break her promise and blab, and she has no more reason to come to him either. At least he thinks so. Now, next day in the morning, Knox thinks that he clearly guessed wrong. As we see, Tia is standing in front of him again as he says that he thought they were done talking and asks what does she wants. She mumbles something at first and Knox doesn't hear or understands what she is saying, and so she speaks up asking Knox to teach her as she wants to make fast progress just like he did and asks him to teach her the way to do it. Knox thinks for a bit and starts leaving while asking if she haven't cracked the secret even after peeping on him for a whole month. She gets a bit embarrassed and replies that she wasn't peeping and tries to stop Knox from leaving, asking if they can at least have a duel or could he at least consider sharing his method with her. From this, Knox remembers that Tia craved her sister's approval, and so he replies before asking for his method or wondering which sort of technique it will require. She should think of the strengths she possesses. Knox then nervously wonders what does one say after that, as he has never consoled anyone in his life. And he once again speaks up, telling her to stop with the comparisons to others and quickly takes his leave afterwards. And Talia seems a bit sad as she says, if this is all that he can tell her. Now outside, Knox looks behind himself, hoping that Tia is not following him as there is no need for him to have her next to himself. As he gets his hands on a hidden treasure of the Lean Hab Manor, no one would want their future killer for that. As Knox arrives at the Lean Haber horse farm, he calls it quite amazing to look at in the flesh, and it's not a surprise that it's considered as one of the 3 best farms on this continent. Rodwell informs Theodore that everything has been prepared, just as he ordered. So Theodore asks him to proceed. He tells his 3 sons that they must be aware of why he called them together on the steed farm. They to choose a horse who will be their lifelong companion. Knox knew it beforehand, as that time has come. Out of all the animals, the horse holds the most sacred place and tradition of the Lean Haber family in this entire continent. Anyone who wishes to be a knight or a magician must acquire a horse at an early age and form a friendly tie that would last their whole life. There is even a course on horsemanship at Lydian, and relatedly, cavalry warfare becomes more and more common as the game proceeds. If your horse dies, you have to form ties with another horse from scratch. So a good care is a must. But regardless of such struggles, as teleportation costs a fortune, the horse is still an indispensable part of life in Lunatic. And so, there is all the more reason to pick a horse. Theodore gives him the first pick since he won the duel, and also tells him to bear in mind that he would only get one chance, which annoys his brothers. He starts walking towards the horses, and Theodore watches with interest, wondering if he possesses acute discernment as well. He walks past some brown horses and finds them quite stellar and cute. But the one he is looking for is the gray one in the back, who look like that it can die any moment. He steps towards it and declares that he would be choosing this one, and his choice surprises both of his brothers along with Theodore. And so he asks Knox to reflect upon his choice once again. Knox notes that he is encouraging him to change his mind, and everyone must be thinking that he has made a stupid choice. But he uses his perceptive eye on the horse to see his stats in window. And it's a high-grade horse, which is just what he expected. The grade of a young pet can go up in tiers over time. Usually it's 1 grade up, which would make this one a prime grade horse, or something even better once it's fully grown. And besides, this horse is an obsidian. It's the rarest of all horse breeds in the game, with strength and exquisite beauty befitting the name. And if Theodore had any idea of what it was, he would have surely taken it for himself. And for now, it's looking like this due to all the debuffs it has. And his negative trait, Born to Die, is even worse than Knox's life-limiting illness. But regardless, Knox once again declares that he will stand by his choice and pick this one. And it's because he knows how to stop all of his debuffs from being a problem. Theodore questions Knox's choice of horse and wonders if it's because he saw too much of himself in it and assumes that he must have let his emotions carry him away, which he finds quite disappointing. And so, Theodore tells Knox that he hopes he won't end up regretting his choice and starts to leave soon afterwards. Alan and Hats tries to call their father out, but he simply ignores them and leaves. And seeing him walk out like this, Knox thinks that he must be seriously disappointed while the other servants tells Alan and Hats that they can still assist and asks them to choose their horse. Rodwell walks up to Knox, asking that his horse would need a name, and Knox agrees. He thinks for a bit and names his horse Carl, the name he always used from the other world when playing this game, and it's a name that has much meaning to Knox as well. Now fast forward and Knox seems to have brought Carl inside, thinking that he cannot let anyone see what he is going to do now. So keeping him in his room was the right choice. Suddenly Knox notices Carl's expression and gaze towards him. And so to Knox, it looks like as if Carl is trying to tell him that he cannot give up on his life. And so it makes Knox thinks that they may be too much alike, as he too may be struggling to hold on to what little chance he has with life. Suddenly he calls out to Lona saying that he knows she is there and asks her to come out quickly, and we see she tumbles while trying to come out quickly. She asks how did he know that she was outside, and he replies that it was rather obvious and asks if she really has to make such spectacular entrance each time. But regardless, he orders her to take care of his horse from today, and she is quite surprised seeing a horse in bed. It makes her annoyed as she pouts while saying, "Who does he think makes his bed?" And Knox tells her to be gentle with the horse as he is ill. Both the horse and Lona seems quite nervous, but she agrees to it, although a bit reluctantly. And now that Knox thinks about it, he knows that what he would be doing with Carl later can be quite frightening. So it makes him wonder, will that faint-hearted Lona not collapse upon seeing it? Now fast forward to 3 days later. Lona screams that Carl is dead and starts sobbing. Meanwhile, Knox sighs and thinks that Lona should by all means bawl her eyes out. She really did care for him and must have gotten attached. But this was bound to happen as Knox always knew that keeping Carl alive was never an option. He asks Lona to stop crying as she is breaking his concentration, but she sobs and tries to go on about Carl. And Knox tells her to not worry, as Carl will come back to their side very soon. Lona questions how is that possible, and if Carl's passing has messed up his mind. Nukes gets annoyed and asks her to hold her tongue and step back. He reaches for a scroll in his pocket and Lona asks, "What is that scroll?" He puts down the scroll on the ground and starts to pour his magical energy into it. Suddenly, the energy starts to surround them as Lona is taken back by its outburst. She asks if he is doing something special with his magical energy. Meanwhile, Knox notes that he is losing control. He tries one more time and asks Lona if she wishes to see Carl die a second time, and if not, then she should stay quiet. And so she covers up her mouth with her hands while Knox tries to concentrate, as it's the key. Knox knows that he cannot handle any mana yet, and his ultra-sensitivity to mana is still inactive. Plus, the Empire's law dictates that only the royals are allowed to make use of their magical energy before turning 15, which gives the royals a head start in the practice of magic. And they generally end up achieving significantly more in the study of magic. But since he is not a royal, all he can do is pour out his magical energy that he can muster up. And although weak, he can definitely feel some energy under his palms now. And he realizes that it's how it feels to use magical energy. He then smirks, thinking that he might like this, and now he uses his one-time skill conjurer. He notes that he doesn't have any room for mistakes since right now he is about to use black magic, and we see Knox summoning a Book of Dead, and now with that, he can summon Carl back to the world as an undead pet, and he initiates the process to do so. The undead in this game are defined by their share features. First, they are brought back with black magic and darkness-type magical energy. Second, they may have died before, but they still have the sense of consciousness, self, and even upgraded strengths, which includes unwavering loyalty to their masters. But there is a catch. As good as it sounds, there is only one family that possesses the might of creating undeads. The Marbases, a renowned family harnessing the darkness element. In that respect, they are like the Lean-Habers. But unlike them, who are traditionally knights, Marbases are black magicians versed in the art of undead magic. So would that mean characters outside of the Marbases family have no chance of using the skills they monopolize? And Knox answers it himself? Not really, as this is where this one-time conjurer skill comes in, and with it, he conjured the Necronomicon, also known as the Book of the Dead. And as he uses the skill, some black hands starts to come out of the ground and surrounds Carl and sucks him in. Meanwhile, Knox seems to be dripping blood from his mouth as Alona shouts his name in worry, but he tells her to hush and notes that he needs to go on for a bit more. And at this point, he starts coughing up blood and is running out of magical energy. And just on time, Carl gets revived and backs up. And he got a message that his skill was successful and Carl has returned as an undead pet. And Knox gets relieved knowing that he did it. And Lona seems to be sobbing and asks if it's him. And he agrees that it's Carl, and now he has no negative traits either, and gets more positive traits instead. Knox pats him on the head, saying that from now on he would be his master. Suddenly, both Carl and Knox are taken back as Lona tightly hugs Carl, who seems quite nervous due to this. Knox questions what is she doing, but Lona doesn't listen and starts crying while hugging him. She tells Knox that she thought that he was dying and that she was also really worried about Carl. But Carl turns his face away in annoyance, and Lona calls him an ungrateful beast since she cared for him so much. Knox smiles seeing their antics while Lona asks Carl to spit out the carrots that she fed him, and now Knox notes that it's time for his quest for the next hidden treasure. Now a few days later at night, Knox seems to be outside. He has a map and some kind of shiny rock in his hand. As while looking at the map, he notes that the paths are not much different from when he was playing the game, which is quite relieving to him as the second hidden treasure of the Leanhaber Manor. If he fails to get it, he won't survive. But if he claims it as his, then it would be the key to impending the progression of life-limiting illness. Suddenly, he notices some sounds from the bush and looks over, but doesn't find anything, and the sounds goes away as well. So he assumes that it's just from him being on edge, perhaps. But he cannot help it either, since it's not a game anymore, and he doesn't want to die twice. And with this, KNX enters the Forest of Lost Children, and his failure to defeat this stage will result in death. The Forest of Lost Children. It's a forest within the Leanhaber Manor, strictly out of bounds for everyone. The pitch darkness and thick fog raining over it makes the forest a labyrinth. Even the most skilled rangers and pathfinders get lost here. So, it's a perfectly descriptive name. The moment anyone sets foot in it, they are as good as lost. And also, it must be noted that it's a forest of lost children. It means that any adult characters won't receive any reward, even if they cleared out all the monsters inhabiting the forest. And if that is not enough, the monsters grow several times more ferocious towards adults. So he lost count of times he got game over figuring out this much about this forest, and in that sense, the difficulty of this forest is around 2.5 stars at the very least. When he was playing from the other world, he didn't even care what the reward item was. But now that he thinks of it, it's exactly what a dying man needs. And so without further ado, he quickly lights the torch. The key to making it through this forest is observing to which direction the smoke flows. And once he gets certain, he has to walk in the opposite direction. But before he moves, he turns back and asks the person who is following him, till when are they planning to peep at him through the bushes? But he doesn't hear any response whatsoever. And so he sighs that they leave him no choice. And so he takes out his sword and takes a big swing across the foliage, which causes the person to let out a loud scream. We now switch scenes where Tia is confused and wonders, how can Knox not fall for her beauty? It's completely non-understandable to her. Emma arrives and begs Tia to stop chasing and following Master Knox around, asking if she is not concerned that she shall end up taking the blame. But Tia replies to her that she doesn't have a need to worry as she gives her the word that she will never be dismissed. And Emma replies that it's not what she meant. Emma thinks that Tia doesn't know how well achieved she is, while she also agrees that Miss Chell is extraordinary talent. But it's not a reason for Miss Tia to feel inferior and get restless, as she believes that she is gifted enough in her own right to be considered a potential head of the house. And as she goes into Tia's room thinking that she must have calmed down and gone to bed, she doesn't find her there, which causes her to panic, and her hand starts to tremble as she thinks if she has gone after Master Knox. And so she quickly wakes up all the attendants in panic, and we see that she has indeed followed Knox behind to the Forest of Lost Children. And Knox is quite confused and surprised upon seeing her here. And she greets him nervously while Knox asks, "Why is she here?" She stutters in her reply, but Knox suddenly notices something and quickly holds her, telling her to get behind him. As we see, they are ambushed by a gray wolf who seems ready to attack at any moment. Tia wonders if this forest has always been inhabited by gray wolves, though she doesn't have a proper sword to fight them. The wolf starts circling them, and after a bit he lifts his head up and starts to howl, and after calling for other wolves it prepares to attack Nox, who seems quite excited while Tia seems a bit nervous. He quickly leaves hold of her and dashes at the wolf while taking a large swing and throws his torch away. And upon seeing him take down the wolf in one hit, Tia finds him incredible, as even though it was just one wolf, he handled it with such efficiency. And as she looks over to Nox, who also glances back at her and asks her one more time, "What is she doing here?" Since had it been his brothers, he could have understand. But why is she pursuing him? She plays with her hair while nervously replying that she was going for an evening walk. But Nox asks her to answer frankly, or he is going to leave her here. Hearing which, she gets scared and quickly grabs his arm. She starts blabbering that she did not intend to do that. But since he made such fast progress and hoping to emulate his success, she's starting observing him and saw him going to the forest late at night and assumed that it must be the secret discipline that he is following. Nox smiles hearing that and thinks that some things just got clear. One is that Tia is overestimating his talents by a lot, and second, she holds no bad feelings towards him, and third, she is clueless enough to think to tail someone in the middle of the night. And so he realizes that he cannot just leave a main character behind in this forest and asks her follow him. Though he also tells her that he is not helping her, but is merely preventing a potential discord between their families by keeping her alive. And so Tia replies that she feels bad and apologizes. And Nox thinks that with this, hopefully she learned her lesson. She then blushes and again speaks up, thanking Nox. And before she could say anything further, they get surrounded by a bunch of gray wolves. As we see the wolves all ready to attack them, while Nox looks seemingly calm. Tia gets nervous and scared and hides behind Nox upon seeing the wolves. Nox also tells her to stay away unless she wants to obstruct his sword. Nox notes that things are going very unexpectedly, so he needs to focus. This forest is one of the prologue stages since it's not a part of the main storyline. There cannot be a main stage boss, but there is an elite monster just one tier below the stage boss. And given that he just fought a gray wolf, the elite monster would be an elite gray wolf, but it would be a misjudgment if he thought that knowing his identity would make things easier. Now, as the wolf attacks Nox, he quickly takes care of them. And in this fight, Nox has always been finding himself at the edge of a cliff. He notes that other wolves are stalking, hiding, and attacking in patterns as a wolf jumps on him to attack. He knows that now he has to drop all the arrogance and face it like he used to from the other world. And so he clenches his swords tightly, adopting the line that he is a nobody as he slashes away all the wolves. Seeing him fight, Tia is quite impressed as he calls Nox amazing and thinks that he is not even exerting himself to the utmost, and he is even more formidable than he was when facing his brothers, and thinks that perhaps he has hunted wolves before. She then remembers Nox telling her to stay away and gets sad, thinking that Nox must be assuming that her swordsmanship is insignificant. Suddenly, both of them notes a loud howl, unlike normal ones, and Nox notes that it's here, the gray wolf, as we see him standing tall against Nox, making other wolves look like puppies. Meanwhile, outside a forest of lost children, everyone is gathered searching for both Nox and Tia. One of the assistant notes 2 pairs of footsteps leading to the forest and says that they belong to Master Nox and Miss Tia, and that he fears that Master Nox has gone into the forest of lost children with Miss Tia for some reason, which freaks Emma out. She tells everyone that they shouldn't be waiting around and must follow them, but Rodwell says that they cannot do that. Unfortunately, Emma asks for reason, and Rodwell replies because it's a forest that even the renowned Lane Haber family failed to vanquish. To the Lane Haber, the forest represented nothing but shame. For the Son of Darkness, the famed Dark Knights of the South, admitting that an entire forest remains unexplored within their manor, was as good as publicly announcing that they are incompetent. Though the fact is still unknown to the Lane Haber family that only children who haven't come of age can claim a full success in the forest. Rodwell wonders, why did Master Nox enter the forest? His footsteps bear witness that he proceeded with utmost caution, looking at all directions, and it doesn't appear that he was manipulated by a monster either. And there is no sign that the robust magical barrier surrounding their manor has been breached. This all could only mean that it was a conscious decision on Master Nox's part to enter the forest, and so he thinks that he was mistaken. He can no longer deny that Master Nox has indeed had a change of heart, and that he is no longer his former weak self. He tells Emma that there is one way for their safe return. With all of his wisdom, Master Nox has to find the path that guides them back to the manor. But regardless, Emma is still incredibly worried and blames herself that she let Talia walk to her own demise. Back to Nox and Tia as she pulls out her dagger to get ready to fight as well. Nox notes that she is not letting her fear break her concentration and tells her that if she wants to save her skin, then she should stay out, and asks her to save her strength to the fullest and run as soon as they get attacked. It would increase her chances of survival, even if a little bit. But Nox thinks that actually fighting an elite Grey Wolf doesn't require life or death conversation. He just wants to stay alert as they wander through the forest, and with this, he notes that she is staying vigilant, but he cannot quite entrust her with the rear guard yet. So he would just have to use his skill and take down the wolf with a single blow. But suddenly, the wolf scoffs at them, and Nox takes notice of it. The wolf then quietly sits down, which angers and annoys Nox quite a bit. The other wolves attacks Nox, but he easily takes them down. Some of them pauses and Nox takes notices of them and is confused at their behavior. And on the command of the elite wolf, Nox is surrounded by them and one of them sneaks up behind. It tries to attack Nox from behind, but he is saved by Tia, who throws a dagger at it. And as he looks towards her, Tia tells him to stay alert. Tia remembers Nox telling her to run away when they are fighting, but decides to not do that. Meanwhile, Nox wonders if Tia is trying to help him. Tia asks Nox if he is all right while sitting on a branch above herself, and once again concernedly asks if he is hurt anywhere, while Nox wonders if she is trying to help him. Suddenly, he hears some growls and looks towards it, and the wolves immediately attacks him. He tells Tia that he is fine, and notes that it's no time for idle thoughts, and she gets relieved and replies, "Thank goodness." Nox sighs, thinking that he must have looked quite pathetic with that just now, and notes that his hands are trembling, and the counteraction has already started. And now the elite wolf also gets up, while Nox notes that he cannot lost it right now. Nox grins, thinking that he finally decided to get up himself. As the elite wolf starts to circle around Nox, it growls and quickly charges at him, and Nox gets ready, but something surprising happens. It doesn't attack Nox, but quickly grazes past by him instead, and his behavior confuses him. But soon enough, Nox realizes what is going on, though notes that he is too late. As the elite wolf attacks Nox and is able to land a strike on his arm from behind, Tia once again shouts his name in worry, and the elite wolf once again leaves to the bushes to prepare for another attack. And Nox annoyingly notes that the rating he gave her before was really not up to the par, and he has to rethink that rating again. Now, because the elite wolf in the flesh is much more smarter than he was in the game, everything goes silent as Nox thinks that he should have known that it was orchestrating an attack with his minions and is now using its surroundings to attack. The wolf once again attacks Nox, and Nox reacts this time, noting that he has to take protective measures and cut the wolf. But this time, instead of attacking, it suddenly stops in the middle, making Nox's swing useless, and then tries to attack Nox on his leg, as Nox realizes that he was waiting for him to take a big swing and expose his weak point. Once again, the wolf changes its attack pattern and goes right for his head. While Nox thinks that he has beaten this game several times, but he was stupid enough to let himself get overconfident and was stupid enough to think that he could do anything. And it's not how he imagined that he would die, and closes his eyes thinking that it's the end for him. But he hears a sound, and when he opens his eyes, he finds a dagger is thrown right at the elite wolf's eyes, and we see it's Tia once again, as Nox thinks that it's like that. If he has a weak point, then so does the elite wolf, and for now the one person who can reveal it is not him. Nox makes full use of this opportunity and clenches his sword tightly and stabs the elite wolf right through his abdomen. And with that, the wolf finally dies, and Nox also kneels when the ground from being all tired as the tension is released. Tia once again worriedly calls out his name and notes the other gray wolves are still down there. But upon seeing their leader die, they quickly runs away and Tia gets down from the tree as well. She quickly rushes over to Nox to check up on him, asking if he is all right, and he replies, "He is." And right as he is about to thank Tia, he suddenly stops in the middle, thinking if he is going to thank his enemy, someone who would kill him in the future. And so he turns away, telling her to not worry for him. But seeing the wound on his arm, Tia gets teary, telling him that he is hurt, and once again asks if he is all right. But Nox gets up saying that he is fine and they should get walking. She tries to argue, but he tells her that his wound is just superficial. And right as Tia is about to say that she is relieved to hear that, a spider crawls on her shoulder. Seeing which, she panics and screams loudly, and Nox quickly turns back, wondering if there are any more wolves remaining. But instead, Tia tightly clings to him, and her behavior confuses Nox. And with fear in her voice, she starts shivering and tells Nox about the spider. And as she opens her eyes only to find it still there, she again freaks out and tightly clutches Nox's neck. Nox smiles and chuckles, thinking that she is afraid of spiders, and tells her that if she is so frightened by a measly spider, then she should not have followed him into a forest. But she asks if the spider does not frighten him, and Nox asks if there are any knights who are afraid of spiders. She quickly gets embarrassed and replies that of course there can be. And when she leaves his neck alone, Nox says that he can finally breathe again. He once again starts coughing, and Tia asks if he's sure that he is all right. And Nox notes that it's his counteraction again, and tells her that it is not something that should concern her. But when Nox thinks about it, he notes that Tia really didn't hold him down or anything, and kind of saved his life instead. And while he is unable to bring himself to thank her, he is quite grateful to her regardless. And so now all he has to do is to find their way out of this forest. Meanwhile, outside of the forest, Emma is sobbing and crying. Rodwell wonders if it's gone wrong and notes that Miss Tia's disappearance can turn into dispute between families. And he fears that it might not be the only repercussion, as there have been reports of children from the manor disappearing into the forest. And now the whispers about Lean Haber family's incompetence will be a public announcement. Suddenly, one of the assistants tells Rodwell to look at the forest as the fog is lifting up from it. Rodwell is quite shocked seeing it and notes that the forest is being subdued. And Emma quickly stands up asking Rodwell if the magic of the forest is lifted, what it means. And Rodwell agrees that it's a sign that the forest has been cleared, and he believes that their one and only hope is coming true. Emma starts to get relieved knowing that Master Nox has done it, as we see him walking back towards the manor with Tia. Everyone notes Nox arriving, and he is surprised as well, seeing everyone waiting outside, and they all are quite amazed upon seeing him get back from the forest in one piece and clearing it as well. Rodwell smiles, thinking that while he is unable to gather his thoughts right now, but one thing has become clear to him: the succession of the Lean Haber family leadership won't be without turmoil. Nox asks, "What is the gathering for?" And Emma quickly hugs Talia, saying that she had no idea how worried she was. And Rodwell replies that they were looking for him since he disappeared. Nox sarcastically comments that it's quite befitting of the Sons of Darkness for being anxious over the family black sheep going astray. Emma tightly grabs Tia, saying that she should really benefit from another recitation of the 71st Stealer Codes of Conduct, and asks her to follow her. Tia tries to apologize, and Emma says that, as a lowly handmaiden, she cannot possibly punish the lady she serves, but the head of the family will sure give her the lesson. Seeing Emma lifting Tia like that reminds him of Lona, who is also freakishly strong. Emma then thanks Nox for keeping Tia safe, and he replies that he had no intention of having her follow him, but she proved herself to be quite capable, so he would like if she didn't got punished severely, causing Tia to blush.